The 2021 Formula 1 season begins this weekend with the Bahrain Grand Prix. And to get you in the mood for the first race of the year, here's a brief history of the event. Formula 1 first raced in Bahrain in 2004. It was the third race of the year after Australia and Malaysia and preceded the European leg of the championship. Whilst the race has often remained in a similar position to this, it has moved about somewhat. The event hosting the season opening race for the third time this year, after holding the honour in both 2006 and 2010. In 2020, Bahrain featured on the calendar twice. The second race, labelled the Sakhir Grand Prix and run on a different track configuration. Raced 1 week apart in late November and early December, this was the latest the Gulf state has featured on the calendar. Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel jointly hold the record for wins on the Bahrain International Circuit, with the pair equally sharing 8 of the past 9 victories on the track. The only exception to this came in 2016, when Nico Rosberg took the flag by 10 seconds from Kimi Raikkonen in the second race of his championship year. It's not uncommon for a circuit to feature multiple layouts, but for 2 to be featured in a single season is unheard of. Last year, however, due to the global pandemic, Formula 1 made an exception and completed 2 races in Bahrain, labelling the second the Sakhir Grand Prix. Whilst the Bahrain Grand Prix took place on the more familiar Grand Prix configuration, the Sakhir race made use of the high-speed outer circuit. While simple looking in design, the outer layout provided a thrilling spectacle as Perez scored his first race win, as well as the first for Racing Point, the team which now competes as Aston Martin. This was not the first time an altered layout was used though. We mentioned 2010 earlier, and this race used the longest configuration available, the endurance circuit. This iteration was more than half a mile longer than the Grand Prix version, and the extension did little to excite fans, with the narrow, twisty add-on adding 8 corners to the track, none of which did anything to aid overtaking. After a one-time cameo, the endurance circuit has never again featured in Formula 1. When Formula 1 went to Bahrain in 2004, it was the first time the sport had raced in the Middle East, and this brought about a certain amount of controversy surrounding human rights. In 2011, these protests reached a head and the race was cancelled due to the unrest. Originally scheduled to be raced at the end of October, the event was outright cancelled 1 week later. The following year, there were again calls for Formula 1 to not race in Bahrain, and to this day, there remain questions over the sport visiting countries with a questionable track record of human rights issues. The Bahrain Grand Prix has never been one that was eagerly awaited, but all this changed in 2014, when for the first time it was competed at night. The race itself was one of the highlights of the year, with Mercedes teammates and title rivals Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg embroiled in a race-long gloves-off battle. That particular race was nicknamed the Duel in the Desert and is one of the most watchable races of the turbo hybrid era. Since 2014, the race has been synonymous with the dark. Under the lights, the cars look stunning, and the change gave the event the spark needed to bring the excitement the Bahrain Grand Prix previously lacked. Formula 1 circuits are the safest racing venues on the planet. Of this, there is no question, with all tracks required to hold an FIA Grade 1 safety license. But accidents can always happen. As it says on the back of every ticket purchased, motorsport is dangerous. This warning hit home on the opening lap of last year's Bahrain Grand Prix, when Ronan Grosjean's Haas speared into the barriers on the exit of Turn 3. His car tore in 2, with the front half piercing the barriers and exploding in a horrific fireball. The pictures of Grosjean escaping the wreckage are unbelievable, and the fact he is already competing in IndyCar is nothing short of miraculous. Changes were made to the barriers for the Sakhir Grand Prix that followed, and a lengthy investigation into the incident was undertaken. Lessons are always learned from any accident, and this one was no different. This year is the final season teams will race under the current aerodynamic regulations. Pre-season testing took place in Bahrain earlier this month, and although drawing conclusions from testing is a fool's game, Red Bull looked strong whilst Mercedes struggled. The midfield looks to be closer than ever, with AlphaTauri making strides forward to rival the likes of Aston Martin, Alpine and Ferrari, and McLaren appear to have adapted to its new Mercedes power unit well, the team also enjoying the advantage of an interesting rear diffuser that caught the eye in testing. So that's it for our Bahrain Grand Prix preview. Let us know your favourite Titanic tussles on this track in the comments below and your fondest memories of F1 racing in Bahrain. And remember, for all of your F1 needs, subscribe and like the GPFans channel.